I'm making this video because I'm angry. There will be no fancy editing or visual effects. Just the story of a man who has had his life destroyed by the useless and ineffective South African justice system. I'm going to read you an article entitled Durban Homeowner Jailed for 8 Years for Killing Burglar, published by the Daily News today, the 20th of April 2018. Durban. Until May 20th, 2016, Sifiso Majola had been an upstanding citizen. But on that day, the draftsman walked into his waterfall home and found two people, Ndumiso Ndlovu and an accomplice, inside. The two were armed with a bush knife and another knife and attacked Majola. He disarmed Ndlovu, who was carrying the bush knife, but his accomplice escaped. What followed resulted in Majola being sentenced in the Durban High Court to 8 years in prison on Wednesday. Majola's home had already been broken into more than 8 times. He had laid charges and opened cases at the police station, which never resulted in any arrests. Eventually, the 40-year-old father of 3 was forced to move his family from their 3-bedroom home to a 1-bedroom house in Claremont. Having overpowered Ndlovu, aged 23, Majola proceeded to use the bush knife to cut him 29 times. He then put him in the boot of his car and left him at a nearby cemetery. Judge Kate Pillay found Majola guilty of kidnapping and murder. In mitigation of his sentence, defense advocate Musa Chiliza argued that Majola should be given correctional supervision. He said Majola had spent 2 years in jail during the trial and his business had collapsed. His house in Waterfall was worthless because it had been vandalized. State advocate Kelvin Singh said although he sympathized with Majola, he should spend time in jail. He conceded that Ndlovu was not an ideal member of society, but said nevertheless that he had a child who would now be fatherless. We cannot allow lawlessness to prevail. Justice must prevail, Singh argued. In pronouncing sentence, the judge said the normal sentence for this type of case would be a minimum of 15 years, unless there were mitigating circumstances. She acknowledged that Majola was angry and seemed to have snapped when he discovered the crime in progress. The number of cuts to Ndlovu's body attested to this, she said. She noted that people were losing faith in the police's ability to catch criminals. This, however, did not mean the courts could allow citizens, no matter how aggrieved they were, to take the law into their own hands. Quoting Mahatma Gandhi, she said, "An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind." The judge said a guilty plea would have shown Majola was remorseful. Pillay also said Majola did not pose a danger to society. "I'm not satisfied the accused should spend a long time in jail," she said. The 2 years he had spent in jail during the trial should be considered when he was up for parole. The reason this case and its verdict make me so angry is that it is emblematic of the daily situation here in South Africa. It seems that the law is in favor of criminals, regardless of the fact that they, on a daily basis, break into homes with the explicit intent to do harm. As stated in the article itself, Majola has had to endure several break-ins to his home, so much so that he was forced to move his family to Claremont. For those of you who don't know, which will be many, Claremont is a working class suburb that is nearer to Durban than Waterfall and has an even higher prevalence of crime. Majola did not seek out this violence. He did not want to cause death to anyone. But I ask you, if you had been through everything he has, and one day you found two men in your home with weapons, what would you do? Would you be able to simply stop at disabling them, knowing full well that even if you had stopped and called the police to have these men arrested, the likelihood of them simply being let off with a slap on the wrist was extremely high? I'm not saying that he should have dumped the body at a cemetery. I believe that Majola should indeed have called the police. However, I can fully understand why he did what he did. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself now. I'm also a resident of Waterfall, and a little over 3 years ago, my cousin and I were the victims of our own robbery. One Friday morning, we were ambushed as we attempted to leave the house and trapped there for 45 minutes, during which we both expected to die. Had it not been for the fact that I had a meeting that day and the colleague I was supposed to meet with came to check where we were, I very likely would be dead right now. It maddens me that even in circumstances where a law-abiding citizen has been able to protect himself from violent criminals, he will now have his life ruined. I know that no prison is a picnic to spend your time in, but for those of you in the West, I've seen documentaries on the state of your prison system, and compared to the one in South Africa, that looks like a holiday home to me. I'm sickened to an extent that I can barely articulate. This man had a family, and all he wanted to do was provide for them and keep them safe. And now all he has is a cell to sleep in, and the very high likelihood that he will be killed by someone else while he's in there. It seems that the law is determined to have it so that eventually the only people in this country who will be free are the politicians and the criminals that make up their voter base. This is a truly disgusting turn of events, and I think everyone should know about it. If you feel as strongly about this, or even if you don't and you just realize how wrong it is, as I do, then please share it and help me get the message across that justice is a dead concept in the country of South Africa. Thank you.